Hey, what is up? And welcome to Magical Monday. And welcome to our Mystic Road Trip. My name's Kim. I am the host. I am a spiritual and wellness life coach, as well as a tarot reader, astrologer, and lover of all things woo-woo. I have decided that on this podcast, at least once a month, I'm going to get into a little bit of the more controversial woo-woo kind of things and discuss some ideas that maybe are a little outside of the box that I'm just interested in, right? And so what can you get from that if we're on a mystical road trip? Because honestly, it's really interesting to learn different theories and thoughts, because maybe something will spark something for you, right? So that being said, today we are talking about Atlantis and lost civilizations, and do they exist, were they real, what were they, that kind of thing. I know it's not our typical topic, but like I said, it's fun to get out there and have some fun. I've done some other ones. I've done on Ouija boards, I've done it on all kinds of other stuff. We're gonna get a little into, I've done ley lines, things like that. These are things that are outside of the box, but things that I think are worth diving into and really taking a look at, because maybe there's something there for you. If nothing else, you learn some new information and you enjoy it. I think that's about it. This podcast, by the way, is basically, my idea is that I'm on a mystic road trip and I want you guys to come along. I'm trying to learn everything I possibly can about the things that really spark a little bit of interest in me, and seeing what is important on my path and what isn't. At the very least, like I said, you're going to learn some new things, and you can take what you want. And hopefully by me doing this on my mystic road trip, I'm helping you guys on your mystic road trip figure out your path and what really resonates with you. That's what I'm about. I really want to help everyone find their authentic path. The one that they build for themselves, not the one that is built for them, right? Society and people, family, not maybe maliciously, but inadvertently build us to what they think we should be. And sometimes, well, a lot of the time, we wind up being people that we're not really, that's not really us, right? So that's kind of what I thought. That's why I'm on this mystic road trip. I'm trying to find the things that authentically match with me, not with the person that people want me to be. That makes sense. Hopefully it does. So let's do a little housekeeping, a little shameless plugging. Then we'll jump into our week in the stars, and then we'll jump into Atlantis and the lost civilization situation. All right. So if you want to reach out, there's ways to do that in the description box. If you want to support the podcast financially, there's ways to do that there as well. If you can't do financially, completely understand. If you would just like, comment, share, follow, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. Get my name and face out there into the algorithm so more people get suggested, and we can build more of a community, so we can have a lovely conversation where we can share with each other all the amazing things we learn and love. So also there is a medium publication that goes along with this podcast, so check it out. And I also have another podcast called Where All the Ladies At. If you like history and you are into feminism and women, you should probably check it out. It's pretty amazing, and I really enjoy learning about these badass ladies. Anyways, I think that's it for the shameless plugging and housekeeping. So let's get into the topic of the day. All right, but before we do the topic of the day, as always, we're going to dive into our week in the stars. This is where I take a few astrological movements that are happening this week and kind of give you an idea of the energies that come with them and how you can use those energies to not go bat crazy. Crazy. All right, so let's start. We're really going to jump to the end of the week with these guys. So we're going to start with March 27th. It's a Thursday. Venus retrograde enters Pisces, and Venus in Pisces conjuncts Neptune in Pisces. It's a lot of Pisces happening. Woo! All right. So let's look at. So what does Venus in retrograde mean? It's basically a time when the planet of love and beauty, right, and relationships, that's what Venus is, goes backward in its orbit, or appears to go backward in orbit. It doesn't really go backwards in its orbit. It just moves a little bit slower, so it looks like it's going backwards. And this often can bring up things about past relationships, maybe some unresolved feelings, revisiting old romantic connections. And because that Venus retrograde is entering Pisces, it could really bring this like compassionate energy, and making us more idealistic and dreamy about love and beauty and creativity, which is not a bad place to be. That in conjunction with Venus and Pisces conjunct Neptune in Pisces is going to amplify this effect, right? Neptune is the planet of dreams and illusions and spirituality, and that conjunction can really make us kind of prone to seeing things with rose-colored glasses, especially when it comes to love or creativity. It can also, though, inspire deep soul-level connections, heighten artistic abilities. All these energies together seems like a great thing. So how the heck are you going to navigate these energies? I would say, for me, be cautious with new relationships or big romantic decisions. Venus retrograde isn't the best time to start something new or make lasting commitments. I would say reflect and heal past relationship wounds is probably a better use of the energies. That doesn't mean you shouldn't start a new relationship. I just think that it can be challenging, right? You might want to also use this period to kind of revisit old creative projects, maybe reconnect with spiritual practices, anything that's going to help ground you. Because remember, dreamy creative energy is nice, but it does have an overpowering thing where you almost become a little delusional in some aspects. I would also say just be mindful of idealizing people or situations. Things that seem perfect on the surface might not be what it looks like. So just really try to balance those dreams with reality. Find ways to ground yourself. Because like I said, Pisces is naturally a dreamer, naturally a little bit. And with all the rest of the energy, it could potentially cause you to go into kind of almost like a delulu state. And that's not a good place to be. So finding ways to bring yourself back down might be an ideal prospect, right? All right, let's go to March 29th. It's a Saturday. Mercury retrograde enters Pisces. All right. So, once again, retrograde is when it looks like the planets are going backwards. They're not really. Mercury retrograde going into Pisces is time when things might be disrupted, especially if it's communications, travel, or technology. Pisces, though, is going to bring a little more intuitive, emotional vibe into the situation. So it's a time when things might feel a little blurry, maybe confusing, disorganized. But there's also deep emotional and spiritual insights that could arise. So I would say Mercury retrograde also often brings revelations and reevaluations from the past. Pisces, because it is the sign of spirituality and consciousness, suggests maybe old emotional baggage might come up, maybe limiting beliefs might come back, unspoken feelings. All of this can resurface. And it's not bad. It's resurfacing because it's time for you to release and begin healing. And that, I know so many people talk about, oh, we're in retrograde, it's so bad. And I mean, sure, the energy could be a little challenging, but they're there to help you take a beat, breathe, look at things, reflect. It's a great time reflection. It's a great time to take a little time to slow down and really look at things and make sure you are aligning with your authentic self. That's the biggest thing. And most people get all freaked out about retrogrades, but that's what the universe is doing. It's giving you time to slow down and look at these areas and reflect and release and heal, so that when we come out of retrograde, you can step forward into your story, right? Instead of being stuck, if that makes sense. How I would navigate this, like I said, reflection. Don't make major decisions, reflect. Journaling, meditate, tapping into your intuition. These are all situations that you could be using this time to do. Let go of old habits, grudges, emotional baggage. These things weigh you down. You have to release and reset. That is what retrograde is intended to do. Also I say, like, there might be some miscommunications, or delays in your plans, but what you have to do is be patient with them, breathe through them, take a step back, breathe, trust the process. The universe knows what it's doing. Things will make sense once you're out of this, right? All right. And also on March 29th, some more fun, Mercury in Pisces conjuncts Neptune in Pisces, and there is an Aries solar eclipse. So, woo! All right. So, I do also believe that the 29th is the new moon as well. Let me look and see real quick in my notes. Oh, yeah. I do believe the 29th is also a new moon. I may not have covered that because I covered that in my moons of March at the beginning of the month. March. Yep, new moon. Yes, I was right. See, sometimes I'm old, so sometimes So on top of all this energy, there's a new moon too. And we'll talk a little bit, if you want more on the new moon, go back and check out my episode on the moons of March. I cover the new moon in full. So let's look at the Mercury in Pisces conjunct Neptune in Pisces and the Aries solar eclipse. So conjuncts are great. Conjuncts are a good thing, right? Because it's Mercury and Neptune and they're both in Pisces, it's really going to deepen the influence of the earlier Mercury retrograde, right? So this alignment is going to make it real easy to tap into your intuitive and creative energy. It might blur the lines between what's real and what's imagined, so misunderstandings could occur. Just once again, try to stay grounded. That mixed in with the Aries solar eclipse really, and it's in Aries. So here's the thing: Aries is the astrological new year. It's the beginning of the astrological year, right? Aries is bold, it is courageous, it is fresh starts, and eclipses are very intense, and they often bring around changes and revelations, and that can make makes necessary shifts in our lives, right? So with Aries, it's taking action, embracing new paths, even if they feel uncomfortable at first, right? So all of this energy, if you think about the fact that it's mostly in Pisces, you have the Aries solar eclipse and it's a new moon, I would say, like, it is a time to, like, go to your spirituality, go to your creativity, go to these things, go to your dreams, really, and then look at them and take action on them. So I would say, trust your intuition, right? Don't make huge decisions. Obviously, Mercury is still in retrograde. And especially if they're based solely on feelings alone. You want to stay open to inspiration, but really make sure the facts are true before acting on them, right? The Aries solar eclipse is all about new intentions. What do you want to create in your life? What bold steps are you going to take? And really take that energy and make a fresh start in any area of your life that needs it. Make sure you're open to change. Be prepared for some unexpected revelations. The energy is all about transformation. Take risks. Leave behind what no longer serves you. This day that is perfect for this, right? So, and once again, if you want to know more about the new moon and that kind of stuff, make sure you go back and check out that podcast. I break down, like, what you should do and all that kind of stuff, like some rituals and things you could do. All right, so lastly, we're going to go to Sunday, and I always say this, remember, my weeks go Monday to Sunday because I release my episode on Monday. So Sunday, March 30th, Neptune enters Aries and the moon enters Taurus. So what does that mean? So Neptune, as I said earlier, is about dreams and illusions, and Pisces is very comfortable in it. Right? It moves from Pisces, right, and it goes into Aries. So this is the fiery, impulsive sign of action, right? And this is a very significant shift. Hold on, I gotta get a drink of water. So it's a very important shift, right? Neptune in Pisces is time for spiritual seeking and introspection. As it moves into Aries, it's time to drive us into bringing those insights into action, right? Aries is about action. So this could lead to more individual pursuits and really stepping forward into your dreams and visions, really taking into it and move forward. Now, the moon is also entering into Taurus. That energy is a little calming and grounding. And this energy together, actually, I really like. Some people might not, but I really dig it, right? Taurus is about stability and comfort and senses. And so when the moon is in the sign, it's time for self-care, enjoying nature, working on things that bring you comfort and security. But also, because Aries is so fiery and passionate, having this Taurus energy kind of like grounding you a little bit might keep you from doing some crazy things, right? Not that taking bold moves are bad, but you know, you still have to be grounded too. So this energy really is good. I would say with Neptune and Aries, you can use that energy to channel your dreams and spiritual insights. Make sure you take some bold steps towards your goals, but make sure that they truly align with your values and passions. Don't just make steps. Sorry guys, my nose is itchy. The moon in Taurus allows you to stay grounded, right? Nurture yourself. That's pampering yourself, connecting with nature, whatever it is. Use this time to really balance inspiration with practicality. Take actions, yes, towards your goals, but try to stay grounded. I said, don't rush into things impulsively. Aries sometimes have this impulsivity problem, and they don't always stop to think if it feels right. They just do it because in the moment it's right, but just use the Taurus energy to stay grounded and really think about these things, all right? And that is it for our week in the stars, guys. Hopefully that helps you. I would love to hear how the energies affected you and how you navigated them. So please, leave something in the comments, shoot me a message on social media, whatever you want to do. And now we're going to dive into Atlantis and the lost civilizations, So here's the thing. There are a lot of stories of lost civilizations, right? Atlantis is maybe the most well-known, but there's others. And so we're going to dive into Atlantis and really look at the archetype of lost civilizations, especially in relation to mysticism and magic. And I think once we're done, you're going to understand why I was like, okay, I can do Atlantis, on a magical, mystical, spiritual podcast. Not just because I'm into this crazy stuff sometimes, and sometimes it's fun to share it and see what people think. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive into Atlantis, the archetype. We're also going to talk about some energies, whether Atlantis is real, and then I'm going to give you a little breakdown of a couple other lost civilizations to check out, and also talk about why we like these. Why are we so infatuated with all these lost civilizations and all that kind of stuff. And I do take a more, I don't want to say this the wrong way. I do take a more practical look. I know there's a lot of different theories out there, but we're going to look at this like this. All right, so let's start. Atlantis. I know you've heard of it, right? But it's been debated for centuries whether this place was real, whether it's just a wild fever dream of Plato. It's it could be anything. The first mention of Atlantis shows up in Plato, as I said, he was into ideal forms and all these deep thoughts, but it shows up in his works, Timaeus and Critias. And he describes this massive island with powerful civilization that existed 9,000 years before his time. Okay? So, 9,000 years. That's a long time to keep a secret, right? According to Plato, let's look at this. Atlantis was like a prime example of everything society could aspire to be. Rich, technologically advanced, and powerful. And it really held sway over the Mediterranean. But we all know with power, yeah, that's right, hubris. The Atlanteans started to think they were untouchable, basically. They got a little cocky with their resources and ruling ways, and they just thought they could take whatever they wanted, no consequences. I'm not saying anything less. But just like that one person that drinks a bit too much and ruins it for everyone, Atlantis went too far, right? They grew greedy, they lost their moral compass, and according to Plato, their punishment was divine retribution. How, you may ask? A massive flood swept them off the map. Gone. In a blink of an eye. No more lavish palaces. No more powerful kings. Just gone. So, this is what we know. This is where the first mention of Atlantis comes in, right? So, was it real? That's really kind of like a $1 million question, because scholars have been scholars believe it's a metaphor. There are people that are still looking for it. The scholars think it was a warning from Plato about the dangers of arrogance. Some think it could have been based on a real place, maybe a city that was wiped out by natural disasters. There is a theory that Thera, which was the eruption of Thera, which destroyed the Minoan civilization. There is a theory that the Minoans were actually the Atlanteans. So what's the truth? That depends on whether you're looking at mythology or archaeology. But let's, that really depends. There's theories. There's even theories that it was an alien island and it's, maybe it's sunk beneath the ocean, or, all these different there's tons of theories about what Atlantis was, right? Scientifically, if you ask me, I think the Minoan civilization thing seems pretty practical. Mythologically, I kind of hope it was an advanced civilization. It'd kind of be cool, There's some things that happened back in the day that were like, and drawings and things that pop up, right? So, if we look at it, though, as an archetype, right, of a lost civilization, how does it play into mysticism and magic, right? Because that's what this podcast is about. We want to know how the Atlantis, this theory of this island that disappears, that had, this great civilization, how does that play into mysticism and magic? So the archetype of the lost civilization is pretty interesting. They're not just these ancient civilizations and societies aren't buried in the past, right? They're everywhere. If you think about it, when you hear lost civilization, it kind of conjures up temples and ancient gods and hidden treasure, whether that's Atlantis, which is what we're talking about now, or Lemuria, or the city of El Dorado. The idea of anything lost is kind of woven into our collective psyche. It's something that happens in no matter where we are in the world. There's some sort of story about something, right? When it comes to mysticism and magic, lost civilizations can often kind of represent mysteries of forgotten wisdom, right? It's not just about the city and artifacts. You have to think about that, right? It's about the lost knowledge, the lost power, and the belief that somewhere buried deep in the sands of time, there's something that we can find that can change everything. That's the archetype, right? It could be hidden wisdom that could make us enlightened, or maybe forgotten technologies, anything that could help us build the future, right? But these stories, you have to ask why do they keep popping up? Our brains can't get enough of them, right? And there's some different things. One thought is that lost civilizations are kind of like a cautionary tale, right? They remind us of the dangers of losing our way. Fall of Atlantis, pride led to destruction, right? So the fantasy of lost civilizations can also be a reflection of yearning for a time when things were maybe simpler, better, more magical. Ancient utopia or a civilization with extraordinary abilities, whatever it is, we seem to love the idea of a place where everything kind of works perfectly, right? All the secrets of the universe are there at our fingertips. That to us seems very, very magical, and magic, and speaking of magic, the idea of Atlantis or any lost civilization connects us to a spiritual practice, right? Think about the idea. There's this idea of Atlantean crystals or sacred symbols, right? They all hold mystical powers. If we could just find those lost treasures, it might unlock some powers beyond our imagination, right? For some, these places are more than myth. They're beacons, right? The belief is that the wisdom of these lost hidden in the astral realms, and they're waiting to be rediscovered by those who can tap into the right mystical frequencies. If you've ever kind of dabbled into occult practices or you follow astrology, you've come across the idea that ancient civilizations had knowledge far beyond ours, right? Some believe Atlanteans knew secrets about the cosmos, about universal energy, and even about the afterlife, right? And who doesn't love the idea of tapping into that power? Astrologically speaking, certain alignments, like the Venus retrograde in Pisces, which we're experiencing right now, can sometimes bring these hidden energies to the surface and unlock deeper connections to the mystical past. And this is all kind of like what makes these Gnostic civilizations so key and so long lasting, right? You think about all these things. There's stories about Atlantis having higher technology. There's stories about these lost civilizations. There's stories about lost tribes. All these things, and there's always mystical things that come to them. There's also people that believe aliens were involved, right? It's just a fruitful area for our imagination to play, but also this hope that we have that we could find this hidden knowledge and it might solve the problems of the universe. We've covered the legends, and I want to talk about maybe how we can use these archetypes and these civilizations to really think about like how to use the energies and ideas behind them to our benefit, right? I'm not saying pack your bags and go look for Atlantis. If you want to, that'd be cool. I'm saying there's ways to do it, right? So one of the things is if we look at these stories as archetypes, right? It's gives us time to embrace energy of reflection. Right? The whole ideas of lost civilization is wrapped up in lost wisdom. And sometimes the key to finding that wisdom is looking within, right? Tap into your own tuition. See where it leads you. Maybe you're not digging Atlantean crystals, but you can dig in your own mind to unlock those hidden truths, right? Meditation is also another great way to connect with the energy of this ancient wisdom, Focus on your third eye. Visualize yourself traveling, Maybe you're traveling to Atlantis or Lemuria, or maybe you're just traveling to another mythical city. Who knows, See what insights come up, right? Maybe you'll uncover answers to questions you've been struggling with. Or maybe you'll just get some really cool ideas for a story, especially if you're a writer, right? Either way, it's beneficial and it's worth a try. The other thing I would say is in these chaotic times, sometimes we just need to reconnect with the earth, Like the moon in Taurus right now, like coming up, grounding yourself can really help you navigate these very trying and swirling energies, right? Really reconnect with nature, even if it's just a walk in the park. I think, the energy of lost civilizations really, if you look at these lost civilizations, they're going to remind us that everything is cyclical, right? And really tapping into the natural rhythms can offer you a sense of balance. And I think that's important. So, do I think Atlantis was real? Some people swear by it, believing that really there's a truth behind Plato's story, and others say it's a metaphor. And Plato, the metaphor thing doesn't sound that far-fetched, right? Trying to warn us about the the dangers of pride and hubris. A lot of different theories have popped up, right, over the years about Atlantis. Some believe it was located somewhere in the Mediterranean, near the Greek island, or even in the Canary Islands. Others suggest it could be further out, maybe even somewhere off the coast of the Bahamas. And basically, it's submerged under the waves. It sounds like a mystery, and mysteries always keep us going, right? It's a bit murky, and there's definitely no definitive answers. Just, a lot of theories and guesswork. But people will still look for it, and there are explorers out there armed with sonar and diving gear and optimism in search of like a lost city, right? It's a universal ultimate treasure hunt, right? And they want to uncover something under the sea that could rewrite the textbooks and find proof of long lost civilizations. Most historians and scholars argue that Atlantis was never real. Atlantis, it was just a simple story Plato put in his dialogues, and Plato loved his allegories, and his tales were often meant to teach lessons about virtue and society and human flaws. So the fall of Atlantis, in his eyes, may have been a warning about the consequences, as I said, of hubris. Too much pride, too much power, leading to inevitable destruction. And the lesson wasn't necessarily about a real place, but about the dangers of losing balance in our own lives. But who knows? We can't rule anything out. The idea that a mystical city could be lying under the ocean, hidden for thousands of years, is pretty cool, and it's pretty imaginative. And maybe one day someone will find an ancient city under the sea and say, hey, this might be Atlantis, Stranger things have happened. Maybe history is waiting to be rewritten. Until it happens, though, we can only really just speculate, right? And because of that, I'm kind of a mixed bag. Like I said in the beginning, I do think that the most logical historical aspect of it would be the Minoan civilization. But I also do think that the story of Atlantis is a metaphor. It is an allegory. It is meant to be a lesson. So I'm one of those people that thinks it could be both. It could be both. A lot of stories have a little bit of fact in them, right? Make them more real. So it's just kind of what I think. But guess what, guys? We spent all this time talking about Atlantis, and there's other lost civilizations. It's not the only one. Have you heard about Lemuria, Mu, El Dorado? There's mythical lands all over the place, right? So I want to take a look at those three, and there's so much more, but we're going to look at these three. These are the other three most popular. So Lemuria is, some believe it existed in the Indian or Pacific Ocean, and it's really connected with ideas of ancient wisdom and spiritual knowledge. It's kind of a place where mystics and spiritual seekers dream of finding the ultimate secrets of the universe, Lemuria was home to a highly advanced civilization filled with wise beings who knew how to connect with the universe in ways that we could only imagine. And so it's kind of really cool. I could probably do a whole one on Lemuria too. And if you're interested in that, let me know. I will do that for sure. There's also Mu, and it's pretty similar to Lemuria, and that has sunk into the Pacific Ocean, but with a twist. Mu is often described as the birthplace of a race of beings with extraordinary psychic powers. Kind of like a society with people who had powers like the X-Men, but with a little stronger focus on crystal healing, right? And metaphysical abilities. Mu was thought to be kind of like this paradise, a utopia, where people lived in harmony with the earth and the cosmos, and like many lost civilizations, it eventually succumbed to disaster, vanishing into the ocean, and only legends pretty much remain of it. There's also the story of El Dorado, which is the mythic city of gold. A lot of us know that partially because of the cartoon that Spanish conquistadors could not stop chasing after. It's not a lost civilization per se. It certainly fits the theme, though, of hidden treasures and forgotten places, right? Explorers and fortune seekers have looked for it for centuries because it's believed to be somewhere, it's a city made of gold. Who wouldn't want to go there, right? But it's somewhere deep in the jungles of South America. The idea of a city filled with untold riches is pretty alluring, but it's pretty elusive. Nobody's found it, and maybe nobody will, So you can see Atlantis wasn't the only ancient society to disappear without trace, and obviously the idea of lost civilizations has been kind of recurring through history. Um, it's there's so much, there's some of these stories, they speak so much to the deeper parts of us, the longing for mysteries of the world, to solve them. It's kind of like a what if, what if question that we keep coming back to and wondering if there were once places like this, and who knows, maybe one day we'll unearth another city or civilization and we'll have to rethink what we know about history. But until then, we can just keep grabbing onto these mysteries and really seeing where they come. So why do we love lost civilizations? Well, mysteries, right? Humans tend to love great mysteries, right? We love to solve puzzles, something that keeps us coming up from, right? There's reasons why shows like Unsolved Mysteries or Ancient Aliens are so popular. It's the ideas of people lost to time and really secrets being hidden, and it's the unknown that draws us in. And that's the same reason why things like Jack the Ripper are still interesting to us, because it's just like this unsolved thing, right? And because there's no correct answers or concrete answers right now, although I do think I just read someplace where they kind of did figure out who Jack the Ripper was, it makes those things more resistible, right? It's this open riddle that no one has gotten the correct solving, right? I do think that there's something oddly comforting about the idea that we're not the first people to struggle with big stuff too. Greed, pride, bad luck, whatever it is. When you read about the fall of Atlantis or the end of Lemuria, you're reading about a long dead civilization, but you can read into it and you can read about societies that face some pretty tough challenges and all this stuff, and you can liken it to what's happening now. For instance, at the beginning, remember I said Atlantis, and I read out what happened to Atlantis, and I coughed United States. I can see the United States in the story of Atlantis. That's how I really can, right? And because of that, maybe they're so long lasting because we feel comfort in them. We're not alone in the struggles that we've experienced. Other people have faced them, right? Maybe they didn't have traffic jams or overstuffed inboxes, but they had the basic struggle. There's this civilization who became so technologically powerful and so powerful in general that they became prideful and thought they could take what they want, and all this sounds very familiar to me, right? And that's just one other reason why I think they like it. Another thing would be the lost knowledge, right? We think if only I knew what people thought thousands of years ago, I'd be a genius, right? Who would want to tap into those secret vaults and wisdom and really uncover ancient texts and show us how to live in harmony with nature? Like, how do we unlock our hidden human potential? If some ancient civilization had that knowledge, then we would want to find it, right? And that's another thing, because as we listen to Lemuria or Mu or Atlantis, they all had this balance and this connection with the universe and the cosmos that we don't have right now. They had powers and things that we don't have, and they were human like us, right? Unless you believe they're aliens. So how do we tap into that knowledge, that ability to find that, right? That finding a shortcut to life's biggest questions could be amazing, right? And last but not least, of course, there's always the treasure aspect, right? Who doesn't like a good pirate story where we go find the pirate's treasure? It's the same thing, right? There's a treasure map. It leads to gold and glory. The idea of a lost city full of gold sure sounds amazing, right? Who wouldn't want to stumble upon that, right? And so it's that ultimate dream of really like this real life treasure hunt, right? It's a little more satisfying than find your keys under the couch kind of search. So it's very appealing. And sometimes, the simple answer to why these things fascinate us so much is just because our lives are kind of mundane. You get up, you brush your teeth, you get dressed, you go to work, you get stuff in traffic, your phone is buzzing, you have endless notifications, you have a to-do list, all this stuff. is really, really a lot to take in. So the idea that there's a lost civilization out there somewhere just waiting to be found maybe gives us a little bit of hope. It adds a little bit of magic and mystery into our life. And for someone who has a pretty mundane life, that sounds pretty cool, right? There's something really cool about watching and waiting for things to be discovered. At the end of the day, obsession with lost civilization is about wondering what happened to them. It's about what can we learn from them. It's about how their story resonates with us. All of these are things, right? And that's why. So I think that's all I want to say about Atlantis and the Lost Civilizations. I hope you enjoyed this little bit more of a different take on the podcast. I really enjoyed researching it and writing about it. I knew a good bunch of this because I'm a kind of a I like the mysterious kind of stuff, you know. I'm into true crime and serial killers and all this like ancient. I don't know if I believe in ancient aliens, but I do find it fascinating, you know. I'm the person that's watching and goes, maybe, kind of thing, you know. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got something from this. If you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments. If you enjoy this kind of thing, I'll put more out there. I have so much stuff, you know. I'm down to talk about Bigfoot and cryptids too. Not that I know how it fits in with the mystical magical thing, but we can work it out. Um, so yeah, as always, guys, if you want to reach out to me, please join me over on social media. You can like and comment and share here as well. There's ways to support the podcast. All the ways I just said, like, comment, share, follow, subscribe. That helps support the podcast. If you want to do some financial stuff and kick a little cash my way, I have a Buy Me a Coffee and a Patreon as well. If you want more information on this and all the other stuff, you can always check out the Medium publication. And if you are into women in history and feminism, please check out my other podcast called Where All the Ladies At. It is a fun look at some pretty badass women, some that you may know and some that I'm sure you don't, because not a lot of people do. And that's it for this week, guys. As always, stay curious, stay blessed, stay safe.